Ever since Europeans first set foot on North American soil, something crucial has slowly but steadily been disappearing: the soil itself. U.S. farmland has been losing about 0.07 inches of topsoil every year. That might not sound like much, but it's nearly double the erosion rate that the U.S. Department of Agriculture considers sustainable. And if nothing changes, the consequences are grim. Experts warn that by the year 2050, less than 5% of U.S. farmland could remain unaffected by degradation. Much of this erosion comes from one source: our modern farming practices. Decades of plowing, monoculture planting, and overgrazing have taken a heavy toll. But while there's no doubt farming methods need to evolve, America has begun experimenting with a more unexpected solution, one that goes back centuries. Enter the bison, the massive, shaggy giants that once thundered across the continent in the millions. It turns out that restoring bison to the prairies may be one of the most effective tools we have for bringing damaged land back to life. To understand why, we need to go back in time. Before people arrived in North America, bison weren't just common. They were everywhere. They roamed across almost the entire present-day United States, large parts of Canada, and even northern Mexico. Scientists call this vast area the Great Bison Belt, a swath of open grassland stretching from Alaska to the Gulf of Mexico. These plains were filled with lush, hardy grasses that bison thrived on. This wasn't just a habitat. It was a finely tuned ecosystem, shaped by bison over millennia. Their grazing patterns, their movement, even their habits like rolling in the dirt, all of it had a direct impact on the health of the land. But then everything changed. When Spanish colonizers arrived in the 1500s, they brought horses with them. At first, it didn't seem like a big deal. After all, horses don't prey on bison. But native tribes on the plains quickly adopted horses, and that changed the game. With faster transportation, bison hunts became more frequent and efficient. By the early 1800s, about 60,000 Plains Indians owned between 300,000 and 900,000 horses, and the scale of bison hunting exploded. In 1840 alone, Plains hunters killed roughly 500,000 bison for food, plus another 100,000 for trade. Horses also competed with bison for grazing land, intensifying the pressure on their population. And then came the cattle. As settlers moved west, they brought cows by the millions. These domestic animals not only outcompete bison for grass, but also introduced diseases that devastated wild herds. By 1900, around 30 million head of cattle were grazing in what was once the Great Bison Belt. The bison, already under siege, were pushed even further out. Before Europeans arrived, there may have been up to 60 million bison roaming North America. But by 1884, that number had dropped to just 325. Not 325,000, just 325 animals left on the entire continent. Bison were nearly wiped out, not just by overhunting, but by a coordinated effort to eliminate them, making way for settlers, railroads, and ranching. The loss of bison was more than symbolic. These animals had played a vital role in maintaining the health of the prairies. They kept trees from encroaching on grasslands by rubbing their horns against saplings. Their grazing encouraged plant diversity. Even their rolling, what scientists call wallowing, helped create shallow depressions that held water, forming micro-wetlands filled with life. Their fur carried seeds to new areas, and when they died, their massive bodies became fertilizer, releasing nitrogen and phosphorus into the soil. And they didn't graze randomly. Bison moved in large, tight herds, feeding in patterns that created a patchwork of grasses of different heights. That uneven terrain provided habitat for a wide range of species, some of which prefer short grass, others tall. But with the bison gone, that balance was broken. Tall, less resilient grasses began replacing the sturdy shortgrass species that had evolved to survive the harsh climate of the plains. Cattle, which grazed differently than bison, often overfed in the same areas, leading to overgrazing and further soil erosion. Over time, vast stretches of land lost their grass cover entirely. The damage was so widespread that by 1926, the southern plains had lost more than 4,600 square miles of pasture. Just 695 square miles remained intact. In many places, the landscape turned from green to barren. Then came one of the worst environmental disasters in U.S. history, the Dust Bowl. In the 1930s, poor land management and drought combined to lift 850 million tons of topsoil into the air. Dust storms choked towns, ruined farms, and forced thousands of families to flee their homes. The soil was literally blown into the Atlantic Ocean. It was a wake-up call. The government began taking land conservation seriously. And eventually, bison became part of that conversation again. One of the first bison restoration projects began in Yellowstone National Park. By the early 20th century, just 25 bison remained there, but thanks to conservation efforts, their population rebounded. By 2022, around 5,900 bison roamed Yellowstone. Their impact on the land has been undeniable. Another notable project is unfolding near Chicago, at the Midwin National Tallgrass Prairie. Once the site of a U.S. Army munitions factory, this area had been heavily degraded. Restoration efforts began in the 1990s using traditional techniques: planting, mowing, prescribed burns. But in 2015, bison were reintroduced. The results have been impressive. What was once lifeless industrial land is now a thriving prairie ecosystem filled with birds, plants, and insects. And this is just the beginning. One of the most ambitious projects in the country is being led by the American Prairie Foundation in Montana. Their goal is to create a 3.2 million acre nature reserve, one of the largest in the world. By 2024, the foundation had protected over 526,000 acres of land through purchases and leases. Their centerpiece, a growing bison herd that now numbers between 900 and 1,000. Since the first few dozen bison were brought to Montana in 2005, the animals have begun slowly restoring the fertility of the land. And it's not just about numbers. The foundation is also focused on genetic diversity. In 2023, they introduced new bison from herds in Colorado and elsewhere in Montana, strengthening the gene pool and ensuring long-term survival of the species. In Kansas, another fascinating experiment has been running for over 30 years. At the Kanza Prairie Biological Station, 13 square miles of preserved prairie, scientists are studying how different grazers affect the ecosystem. They divided the land into zones, one with bison, one with cattle, and one with no grazing at all. Each area also undergoes periodic controlled burns, mimicking the natural fires that once shaped the landscape. Why burn the prairie? Surprisingly, fire plays a vital role in maintaining healthy grasslands. It removes dead plant material, returns nutrients to the soil, and encourages new growth. Native American tribes used controlled burns for centuries to manage the land and to attract bison. The results of the experiment have been eye-opening. In the areas grazed by bison, plant diversity increased dramatically. Over 3 decades, the number of native plant species nearly doubled, an 86% increase compared to the unraised zones. Bison feeding patterns reduced the dominance of just a few grass species, giving room for others to flourish. In contrast, areas with cattle saw less diversity and more uniform grazing pressure. All of this points to one conclusion: bison aren't just animals, they're land managers. They shape the landscape in ways that machines and humans simply can't replicate. As climate change accelerates and soil degradation threatens food security, the lessons of the past are more important than ever. By restoring bison to the American prairies, we're not just saving a species, we're reviving an ecosystem, one hoofprint at a time.